Which villain do you sympathize for and why? Mr. Freeze. Just a guy willing to do whatever it takes to save his wife from dying. It felt so bad in the Batman animated series when Nora Freeze is revived and leaves him. Damn, that's cold. By that point he had been a criminal for long and done a lot of awful things, so it's not unwarranted. Reminds me of Monte Cristo, who loses his chance to recover his old love to hatred. The tragic thing at this turn is that if he could trust people he could have avoided it. In Batman Sub-Zero he discovers Nora could be cured with an organ transplant but has a rare blood type and the only match he can find is Barbara Gordon. Unfortunately a live transplant would be fatal and so he lies to Barbara that Nora only needs a blood transfusion, so Barbara agrees. This is almost certainly the plan Nora thought irreconcilable. It fails, Victor goes missing, but Batman saves Nora and the movie ends with Victor seeing that Bruce Wayne has found and funded a transplant. Batman actually offered Freeze help every time they meet in the series. Batman had a lot of sympathetic villains and often tried to help them. Even in The Dark Knight Returns, which is Batman at the most grimdark Frank Miller could make him, Bruce Wayne still made sure Harvey Dent got the best psychiatric care that superheroically large sums of money could buy. It didn't help in the end, but Wayne seriously tried and even thought it had worked right up until the reveal. In Batman White Knight, they even managed to make the Joker a sympathetic character by making him a product of a mental breakdown who just needs the right medication to cure him of the affliction. He takes some drugs that drive back his Joker-ness and he becomes Jack Napier, totally normal guy who's actually highly intelligent. Once he's sane, he feels immense remorse for all the stuff he did as Joker and goes about trying to save Gotham. At times he still secretly breaks the law, but he does that in part to get Batman to leave him alone by showing people how much the city is having to invest in repairing the damage Batman causes every time he fights a villain. Batman spends the entire comic seemingly on the verge of madness, even Dick and Barbara start thinking he's going too far. He refuses to trust Napier's intentions until the end, at which point Harley, one of two, has commandeered Freeze's ice cannon and frozen half the city because she wants Mr. J back. All the while, Napier is finding it takes more and more of the drug to keep him from turning back into the Joker. At the end when no amount of the drugs can help and he has to go back, you actually feel bad for him. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think I prefer Arkham Knight's ending for them to all these. She's unfrozen but reveals she was conscious and could hear everything Mr. Freeze did for her. She still loves him, but doesn't want to live another 10 years frozen solid for a cure that might never come. So she decides to live the last of her days alive with Mr. Freeze until she dies, whereupon he'll kill himself to be with her, not be without her. I definitely didn't get that part about him killing himself to be with her. It sounded more like he was just sad they wouldn't have much time left together. Unless there's more information after the end scene of that chapter. Either way, I agree it's the perfect ending for them. Probably difficult for the comics because they need him to keep being a villain, and that ending pretty much ends his story. I mean Victor is alive for Nora, it's not unlikely he would kill himself. Sure, but that's not what is indicated in the game, and one would think that Nora would not want Victor to kill himself over her. I feel like if that was the intention there would have been more indication that way. His entire life's purpose since she got frozen was to save her, once she's gone he basically has nothing left. I didn't get those vibes either, but from the way Batman says, I don't think we'll be seeing him again at the end, I can kind of see how someone might think that. Spoilers for a 24-year-old movie ahead. The villain from The Rock, General Hummel, was just trying to secure military benefits for his soldiers killed in Black Ops authorized by the US government. This money was supposed to come from a slush fund from illegal weapons sales, also perpetrated by the government itself, and his threat against San Francisco was initially a bluff. He was basically trying to look after his men but became desperate after exhausting the proper channels. General Hummel was an anti-hero, rather than a villain. I think he was probably one of the most conflicted and well-written performed movie antagonists of the 90s. Ed Harris was way too good in The Rock. It's like he momentarily forgot it was a Michael Bay movie. Outstanding dramatic performance. It was before Michael Bay was Michael Bay and the kind of movie very of its time before it could be defined as such. It was very influential for better or worse. Armageddon is another great example. Despite what we think of him now, Bay was making the kind of action flicks defined by a genre, constantly trying to push the envelope while giving us complex characters, and in terms of the time he did a good job. Constantly trying to push the envelope while giving us complex characters. I don't think Michael Bay wrote the script. There's 3 writers credited for The Rock. David Weisberg, Douglas Cook, and Mark Rosner. Uncredited, though, were two of the best writers of the 90s. Aaron Sorkin and Quentin Tarantino. Wait, what? Aaron Sorkin and Quentin Tarantino helped write The Rock. Yep, and Jonathan Hensley, who worked with Bay on Armageddon and did rewrite work on the other great 90s Nicolas Cage action flick, Con Air. Exactly, so saying Michael Bay was trying to give us complex characters is kind of bullshit. The writers make complex characters. Which isn't the point I was making at all. I've heard it said that every movie is 3 movies. The one that's written, the one that's filmed, and the one that's crafted in editing. The bevy of writers are responsible for a lot, yes. What happened on set is a collaboration between that, the actors, and Michael Bay. How involved Bay was in the editing is anyone's guess. The credited editor is Richard Francis Bruce, who has a career back to the 70s and has edited some great, Seven, The Shawshank Redemption, and not so great, the sequels to 50 Shades of Grey, films. It's easy to forget this phase, but it's probably the most important of all to hone the work into something remarkable. Crediting Hummel's complexity to Bay entirely is wrong, but so is entirely dismissing his involvement. Tom from Tom and Jerry. I agree with you. For me, Jerry was the villain. That little F-rat. Scar. Mufasa pushes him out of the pride so he can F all his sisters and cousins, and the mother F still comes to visit him and pass judgment on his bitterness. Scar is my favorite Tom and Jerry character. LOL nice. Let's also add in that Scar is probably one of if not the most successful Disney villain. He accomplished exactly what he set out to do, conquered the pride and reigned for multiple years. And the only reason things went south were because of an untimely drought. Simba just happened to return as the drought broke. It's been a while since I've seen Lion King, but wasn't Scar basically food-starved? I think I recall his whole political campaign, and the reason he got so many other species of animals on his side being about food. The vultures were on the bad side too, and they had a whole song about food. Glorious food. I'm pretty sure that was Ice Age. I don't remember Ice Age at all, but maybe they had similar themes. The only thing I remember from Ice Age is that the squirrel was desperate for food and caused a glacial crack trying to get a nut, and all the other characters trying to migrate for food and working together. I don't remember any political power dynamic where one was in charge of the food. No, that was literally Ice Age. The scene you described with the vultures was Ice Age. The glorious food scene with the vultures. Just checking to make sure cause it's been a while for both movies, and I'm taking it to mean the vulture scene was Ice Age, but the other parts were Lion King. Yes, the vulture scene with glorious food was Ice Age, and the rest was Lion King. The only animals Scar recruited were the hyenas because they were also starving. You just use Google, also it was Ice Age. Yes. You described Ice Age. Ice King. I mean before he got the crown, he was a really good guy. The crown messes up anyone who wears it. Ice King has to be one of my favorite characters in Adventure Time and animation in general. The story is just so damn compelling once you see the bigger picture. Plus he's just a lovable idiot. That's the best description of him, a lovable idiot. I like him too. The Grinch. Everybody was a bag of dicks to him and really he just wanted to belong. The Grinch never hated Christmas. He hated people and that is fair. Mr. Grinch saved everyone from a capitalist institution and single-handedly took down every prominent member of the Woeville bourgeoisie all in one night. In this essay, I will. Don't stop, I'm close. The workers of Woeville then seized the means of production. They redistributed the wealth and divided the power to the proletariat. Woeville became a classless utopia where the workers owned the product of their labor. I came. That's the Grinch from the Jim Carrey movie. The original Grinch was just a dick who hated Christmas. If I had to deal with a bunch of singing midgets on Christmas, I'd be pretty annoyed. To be fair, there isn't a lot of exposition in the original Dr. Seuss story. We don't know what made the Grinch's heart 2 sizes too small. Maybe the town is built on his tribe's ancestral land. Yeah, they changed it to say that he was bullied as a kid for having facial hair, and then he was embarrassed when he tried to shave. At least that was my take on it. Meh. I prefer him being a curmudgeon just for the sake of it. Yup, and that's all there originally was to know. That's everything. In the live remake, they invented this backstory of how the Grinch used to live in Woeville and go to school with the woes and try to fit in with the regular kids. But they bullied him for his beard, so he tried to shave it and he cut himself up in the process. He wore a bag on his head to school the next day, and the teacher made him take it off and show the class his embarrassing face. They laughed at him so much that he went crazy and left town, and I'm pretty sure that's his origin story of why he's so grinchy. Later in the movie they even show him being happy and jolly again as the cheermeister, but the mayor decides to be immature and remind him of his bullying. This snaps him back into an angry outrage. I admit it's been many years since I saw that film, so I may be fuzzy on the details. But I never really liked giving him a backstory on why he's the Grinch. He just simply is. The iconic song explains you're a mean 1Mr Grinch, not like he's actually really sympathetic and nice and victimized. He needs that character arc change to grow his heart size. It's more than just getting over his bullying. Zuko. My first time watching, even before his arc, it was just so heart-wrenching seeing him doing everything just to be loved and accepted by his people, his father. The best redemption arc I've ever seen anywhere, to be honest. I remember where he asks Aang to kill him if he ever turns into his father. That hit hard. Captain Hook. Captain Hook must remember not to scratch his toes. Captain Hook must watch out and never pick his nose. Captain Hook must be gentle when he shakes your hand. Captain Hook must be careful opening sardine cans and playing tag and pouring tea and turning pages of his book. Lots of folks I'm glad I ain't, but mostly Captain Hook. Shel Silverstein. Just recently watched Disney's Peter Pan for the first time since I was a child. Not sure if it is a sign I am old, but my girlfriend and I both agreed that we didn't think Hook was that bad and that maybe Peter is actually the real villain. He just bullies Hook and antagonizes him the whole time. In the original play, Peter Pan is absolutely the bad guy. The Lost Boys don't grow up because Peter kills them off once they get too old unless they manage to escape. He's a centuries-old child who gets murderous whenever anyone doesn't play his games his way. Hook is depicted as fairly noble by comparison. He has principles and ambition and is a worthy adversary despite his mortality. He's also supposedly one of the Lost Boys that got away. A fake he's just trying to keep others from getting killed and to stop Pan. Which would make him the hero, not the villain. There's a fantastic novel by Christina Henry called Lost Boy: The True Story of Captain Hook. And Hook is definitely not the villain in that story. Love that book so much. I remember watching this as a child with my sister and my father for the first time. Saw it a couple times after that, but my dad always kept hating Peter Pan and telling us he was really smug. As a kid I'd never noticed, but recently I rewatched and Peter Pan definitely is in a hole that is taunting Hook all the time. No wonder he is a little rough around the edges. He's a kid, and kids are a-holes. His level of a-holeness is appropriate. The Wicked Witch of the West. Dorothy killed her sister, stole her shoes and refused to give them back. Young woman travels to a strange land, kills and robs the first person she meets, then teams up with 3 strange men to kill again. We're off to commit a murder. A wonderful murder in Oz.